Hi, my name is Chris Brennan, and the purpose of this video is to give some microphone recommendations for astrologers. Alright, so let's jump right into it. The purpose of this video is that astrologers more and more often are using computers in order to communicate, in order to have consultations with clients through things like Skype or Zoom. They're also giving webinars, and also a lot of astrologers are starting to do podcasts and YouTube channels. And my own background is that I have been doing podcasts for the past 7 years now. And during the course of the past 7 years, I've been experimenting with different microphones and trying different things in order to improve my audio quality. And that's been a really fruitful sort of exercise or fruitful process for me, because I've realized more and more that even if you have something really good to say, or you have very good information to communicate, if your sound quality or the quality of the equipment that you're using is not very good, sometimes that can completely distract people from the message that you're trying to communicate. So the purpose of this video is to give astrologers some microphone recommendations in order to help improve the quality of your audio. So the reason why this is important from a technical standpoint is that although you can kind of get away with using a built-in microphone that might be on your laptop or might be on your desktop, the sound quality of a built-in microphone typically is not going to be very good. And oftentimes it will pick up like sounds coming from your computer, or it will pick up static from the air around you, and it'll sound kind of grainy. And generally it can just be kind of distracting. So sometimes there's programs like Skype where they will do things in order to mask that, or in order to offset it so that the sound is kind of passable if you're doing a consultation through Skype or something like that. But it really becomes apparent that those microphones are not sufficient or not very good if you're trying to give like a webinar or a podcast interview or doing a YouTube video. So even then, if you get just basically any sort of external microphone that's not built into your computer, typically that's going to be an improvement over one that's just built into your computer or your webcam or what have you. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 different options for different external microphones. The first option is just going to be a basic webcam microphone that's built into the webcam to show you the sort of lowest tier, and that's not really so much of a recommendation, but I'm going to use it for comparison and for contrast to show you the difference. So that's the first option. The second option is going to be an entry-level external microphone, which is a blue Snowball. And then finally, the third and main recommendation that I'm going to make is a sort of mid-tier USB microphone called a blue Yeti. So all of these I'm going to focus on USB microphones where you can just plug them right into your computer and then they automatically start working, since that's really, both in terms of price and quality, the best range for most astrologers to shoot for. And the price range on the 2 primary mics that I'm going to recommend are $70 for the blue Snowball and $125 for the blue Yeti. So I think that's it in terms of introducing this video. So let's take a look at, I'm actually going to test out some of these microphones and show you what they sound like. That way you can sort of make your own decision based on that comparison. So let's take a look at the first microphone. All right, so here's option number 1. And what this is this is the built-in microphone that is on my external webcam. And the webcam is a Logitech C922. So it's a relatively recent, a relatively standard external, pretty high quality webcam that you can pick up over the past few years, either online or at stores like Best Buy or Office Depot or what have you. So one of the things that you can tell right from the start that the audio quality in this thing is not very good. So it's passable, and if you need to use a built-in microphone that's built into your laptop or your desktop or even an external webcam, then you can kind of get away with that sometimes for things like Skype. But as you can tell, the audio quality is just not super crisp or not super clear on a device like this. So generally speaking, it's not really optimal, especially for things like podcasts or YouTube videos or webinars or things like that. You might be able to get away with it for something like a consultation through Skype, but it's just not going to sound as clear or as crisp as it could potentially. And sometimes, you can just come across better if you're using a more high quality device. So this is what the sort of a standard webcam microphone sounds like, as a first test and as our first tier or our first option in terms of how microphones go. All right, and here's our second test. So this is a microphone called a Blue Snowball. And the Blue Snowball is a good entry-level external microphone. So this is basically the first tier once you get away from basically having like an internal mic on your laptop or on your webcam. And it's relatively affordable and it's relatively easy to get. So they sell the Blue Snowball online for about $70. It's usually in the $70 range, give or take. And you can get it either on Amazon or you can get it at local stores like Best Buy or Office Depot. So the sound quality is pretty decent. It's definitely an improvement. Typically speaking, when you listen to a Blue Snowball, it's an improvement over most webcam mics or most internal mics on laptops. It's still not the best you could get, but it's a good middle ground and it's a good entryway if you're on a pretty tight budget, because $70 is basically one of the cheapest sort of mics you can get that's like this, that is a USB mic where you can plug it directly into your computer and then it just starts working. And that's one of the beautiful things about this microphone, is that it works pretty well on most systems, and you don't need to be like a tech genius, and you don't need to have any other equipment in order to get it to work. So this is what the Blue Snowball sounds like, and I will amplify or like normalize the sound so that it's the same, more or less the same level as the audio in the rest of this video, but otherwise I'm not going to do any processing or anything like that. So what you're hearing now is the sound quality of the Blue Snowball. All right, and then finally, this is the third, and really this is the main recommendation that I have. And the mic that I'm speaking into now is called a Blue Yeti. So it's by a company named Blue Microphones, and the name of the microphone is the Yeti. So the Blue Yeti is a good mid-tier USB microphone in terms of quality versus price. And this microphone usually is sold for about $125 or $130, depending on where you're buying it and depending on whether it's on sale or not. So this microphone is pretty popular, and you can see most big YouTube channels, or not big YouTube channels, but a lot of YouTubers use this microphone. So it's become a pretty common microphone. You can get it on Amazon. You can also buy it at most Best Buys or Office Depots or other stores like that. It's become so common. So I'm speaking into the Blue Yeti right now, so right away you can hear the sound quality is pretty good on this microphone. It also has a few different options and a few different bells and whistles. So this is from the same company that did the previous microphone, which is the Blue Snowball, but you can tell right away that it not only has better audio quality, but it also has a number of different options in terms of different ways that you can control the sound quality on the device. So it has some knobs on the side that can adjust the gain, so that the sound of the microphone or the sound of your voice going into it and how high or low it is, you can adjust manually. It has a nice little port on the side which you can plug a pair of headphones into. And this is incredibly useful and incredibly crucial for doing things like webinars or Skype calls, like Skype consultations or podcasts or other things like that, because it's important to be able to plug your headphones directly into the microphone. That way you can both hear the other person without having your computer speakers on, because if you do that, then you're going to encounter feedback that's going to end up on the recording, and that just sounds terrible. But also, it's nice to be able to plug the headphones directly into the microphone rather than into your computer, because then you can hear the sound of your own voice even though you have headphones on. And even though that can be a little bit disorienting at first, that's actually a really crucial thing in terms of being able to modulate the tone and the sort of loudness of your own voice to make it appropriate for the conversation. So it has a knob also, so you can adjust the sound in your headphones so it can be higher or lower if you need to hear yourself, more loudly or more quietly. It has a mute button. It also has different sound patterns that you can select on the microphone. So the one that is the most useful for most people is the cardioid setting, because what the cardioid setting does is it basically it makes sort of like a sound cone that accepts all of the sound coming from right in front of the microphone, which is where you're sitting, and it tries to block out all of the sound that's coming from around the microphone, like behind it or to the sides. So that can be really useful for people who, have a laptop or a desktop sitting next to them where the fans might be kicking off some sound. Or if you have a noisy environment, this microphone can be good at canceling out some of those sounds that are coming from the sides or behind the microphone. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else with respect to this microphone, but it's a pretty good, pretty solid investment. So, initially it might seem kind of expensive, or it might seem like kind of an investment, but it's actually a really worthwhile investment to get really good quality audio for all of the different things that you're going to do as a professional astrologer, or as a consulting astrologer, or as a teacher. And one of the first things that I did when I started my podcast was invested in what was, for me at the time, a pretty expensive microphone, an expensive USB microphone. And I felt like it was really worthwhile, and it paid itself off over the years in the sort of quality of the audio recordings that came from it. So this is what the Blue Yeti sounds like, just to give you a preview, and this is definitely my primary recommendation for the microphone that I think that most astrologers should try to get if they can work it into their budget. So let's switch back to my main microphone real quick, and then we'll talk about some other options and then wrap up this video. All right, so I'm switching back to my main microphone right now, and so those are my three recommendations. And really, as I said, if you just want an entry-level microphone and $70 is all you can afford, then I would go for the Blue Snowball. However, if you can find a way to afford it, I would definitely recommend going for the Blue Yeti, because that's going to really give you the best sound quality. It's going to have the most options. And in terms of being a long-term investment, it's really going to pay off the most if you're going to be paying to buy an external microphone in the first place. So those are the main USB microphones in the lower and mid tier. There's probably one higher tier of USB microphones. The one that I bought originally in 2012 for when I was starting out the Astrology Podcast is called a Rode Podcaster. And I really loved that mic. That's a USB mic that's at the probably highest tier or most expensive type of USB mic that you could get. It was about $200 at the time when I bought it, plus I had to buy a microphone arm and a shock mount for it so that I could move it around without it creating a bunch of noise. And that was an extra $100. So altogether it was like a $300 investment, but that really paid off in the long term. That being said, I think for most astrologers, getting something like a Rode Podcaster would be overkill and probably unnecessary. And really, the Blue Yeti is probably the best choice in terms of both, how much it costs versus the quality and the different options that you're getting. So that would be my main recommendation instead of going to that higher tier like a Rode Podcaster. So beyond that tier of like a $200 Rode Podcaster, you start getting into what's called XLR microphones, which are studio quality microphones that have plugins where they don't plug in directly to your computer through USB like the microphones we've been talking about, but instead XLR microphones need to plug in first to something like an audio mixer or something called an audio interface, which is a device that then plugs into your computer via USB. So this starts getting really expensive and really complicated, and I've only recently, over the course of the past year, finally ventured out into experimenting with different XLR microphones and dealing with some of the hassles associated with getting the equipment and the different things that you need in order to operate one, just in order to continue to improve and push my sound quality higher on the Astrology Podcast and on my YouTube channel and other things like that. But I definitely, for most people, would not recommend messing with that stuff straight away, because typically the Blue Yeti is going to be sufficient for most people. So XLR microphones, there's a lower tier, but really, if you want to get something that's better than the Blue Yeti or better than the Rode Podcaster, then you start getting into like a $400 entry level tier, and it can go all the way up to like $1,000 depending on what kind of microphone you're talking about. On top of that, you have to get other equipment like an audio interface to plug the microphone into. Plus, in some instances, you need to get a preamp, because the signal coming from an XLR microphone, especially a dynamic microphone, is often not strong enough. So you actually need to boost the signal. So you need an additional piece of equipment to do that. And there can be all sorts of other hassles associated with it. So the microphone I'm speaking on right now is a Shure SM7B that I got just a few months ago, earlier this year. I think maybe it was 4 or 5 months ago, I think around April. And I had some issues with it due to a faulty audio interface at first, but I really like the quality of the sound that I'm getting at this point, although I'm still experimenting with different microphones in order to figure out one that's best for me and what I'm trying to do. So again, for most people, that's way more information and way beyond anything that you're going to need to do anytime in the near future. But if it were me, and if I were just getting started and I really needed some advice or a recommendation about a microphone to get, then definitely the Blue Yeti is the best microphone that I could recommend in terms of the quality that it offers you and the price range that it's at, for only being about $125. All right, so I think that's it for this video. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments section below. If you'd like to see more videos like this talking about different advice and technical advice and other topics for astrologers, then please let me know. And if you have any of your own sort of opinions or recommendations in terms of microphones or audio devices and other things like that, then definitely let me know as well. All right, well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.